Thank you for listening to Agile Standup, the show where we talk about all things related to Agile, Scrum, and Kanban, leaving no subject professional, unprofessional, awesome, sensitive, or otherwise untouched. Today, we are going to discuss how to gain the trust of your teams for an incoming Scrum Master.
Oh, that is a hard one, John, because, that's a question that comes up all the time, right? So how do you gain trust as a brand new Scrum Master on your team? Because it takes a while to build that trust with your team, right?
It does. I mean, you come in for the first time, and then I think the impression is that you're supposed to be this is the one in charge, going to tell us what to do. Because especially a team that hasn't been a Scrum team before or is new to Agile may kind of perceive you, or maybe their product owner, as like the authority. So there may be some confusion there.
I think so, and I mean, I think that as a Scrum Master, like I would say, coming in your first month, you to gain that trust with your team, you probably don't want to make immediate changes. I think it's good to sit and just kind of observe how the team is doing for the first month, even I would say close to even 2 months.
I like that. So let's take a look at that. Like, instead of just saying like, what do you do when you first come in? Like, do you want to break it down into month 1, month 2, month 3? Because after month 3, wouldn't you agree that like month 3 is kind of like after month 3, you kind of have to analyze it's a sink or swim situation. It's like you're doing it or you're not. And if you're not, you need some help after month 3. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes like the 3-month cadence to kind of figure out where the team is landing and what areas of improvement you need to make. But I even say that sometimes it can take up to 5 months.
It can take up to 5 months?
I feel like it could take up to
So can I
5
talk you into
months
going
to
over 5 months?
Really gain trust. I think we should start out with the first 3 months first.
All right.
And see where that takes us.
The roadmap for being the Scrum Master.
Oh my gosh. Hey, that's a good one. I like that.
Is that the title for being our podcast? The roadmap
Maybe.
for being the new
The
Scrum
roadmap
Master?
for being a successful new Scrum Master.
How about a Gantt chart?
A Gantt chart. See, that's not Agile.
It's not.
Don't ask me for a Gantt chart
right.
if you're saying you're Agile. Don't.
I know, but I'm joking. I'm
A
trying to make...
roadmap is fine.
For all those listening along at home, I'm just trying to make a joke, and apparently Christine is not in the mood. She's
No,
very
listen,
excited to
I
get to
think
month 1, so I'll stop
Yeah.
All right.
So let's go into month 1. So you're new on the job in month 1, and I feel like you need to sit down and just kind of figure out the team dynamics, the different styles of communication, the different challenges that they're facing, what those areas that you need to really come in and help facilitate the health of the team, right? Help them get in a healthy direction. What do you think?
But how do you do that? So I mean, that sounds like a Hallmark card. I mean, you just described, yes, of course, everybody should do that. But see, like, what I want to hear is, how do you do it? I've got some ideas on how to do it, but how would you start about doing that? Yes, gaining the health of the team, understanding where they're at. Well, what would you,
So,
how?
It's funny because I've been a Scrum Master in different places. And, I have to say that when I first started the role, I was like, yeah, I'm the Scrum Master. I'm going to step in, and this is how you should do it because this is what I learned in my class. But you know what? You find that that fades really fast, and it doesn't grow on people and doesn't scale. So I feel like that first month, if you have someone that's used to running the retrospectives, I think you need to sit back and let them conduct the retrospective or facilitate it.
Agreed.
And figure out how that room navigates itself, how the different personalities work with each other. If you just kind of sit back in the room and just analyze, I feel like you can get a pretty good gauge on the different, and I don't want to call them characters, but you can figure out the different personalities in the room. And I think from there, after a good 2 or 3 retrospectives, you can kind of figure out how you can improve that process and who's talking and who doesn't want to speak up.
So it could sound cheesy, but are we saying don't assume that leadership role, but work towards it?
I think you need to work towards it.
Yeah.
You definitely need to gain the trust. I've worked in some places where there's like, yeah, you're the Scrum Master, just step on in and take over. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. Hold on. Let me sit back for about a month and just kind of figure out who's who, who has what function on the team, who the leaders are within the team, because I think that's important too, because I feel like once you figure out who leads the team, silent leaders is what I call them, right? Like they're not the most vocal people to raise their hand and say, I'm leading the team. They're usually the people that they have the ability with their knowledge and background to persuade the team and to influence them.
Yeah.
And so I feel like as a Scrum Master, that's really what you want to look for. And you want to work back with those people to really understand why it is that they're making the recommendations that they're making, or why they choose to talk about certain topics, what those pain points are. I feel like those are the people that you really need to sit down with and really understand how they see things running in the team. And then, you know, from there you can take it with each individual and kind of gauge where they're at in that whole maturity.
So does this also work for distributed teams? Because I've personally only had experience with very distributed teams, and usually the very first thing that I do, in fact, I was on a call with some other Scrum Masters talking about this, the very first thing that I do is I go in and I'd say, let's introduce ourselves, talk about what we do, not necessarily like, oh, you know, this is my position. What do you do? You know, oh, are you a Python developer? Do you do this? Do you do that? Great. And then where are you in the United States or in the world? And then, I don't know, I might try and make some, you know, funny comments where I can appropriately, of course, about where they are in the world. Like, for example, if somebody tells me that they're from New Jersey, I'm like, by choice? Not, you know, I'm sure for all those listening at home in New Jersey, I mean, hey, it's a beautiful state, right? I mean, the drawing power of the Garden State is, you know, limitless, I'm sure. But, you know, I mean, things like that, you know. Kind of that's the approach that I take, especially for a you know, and it gets a laugh. I mean, I guess I kind of look for the laugh, at least to kind of break the ice, kind of just to hear people. I personally like to kind of hear people laugh, especially when you're meeting them the first time. You know, it's light, it's a little bit because you're probably for the very first time not seeing them. You know, it's just a real quick phone call. I know that I've started teams with a 30-minute phone call of just like, hey, we're all here today, because I remember my first team that I got started, I got a list of names, and it was like, here's your team. The place where I worked at the time, it was very much a technology side versus a business side. And it was like, cool, you want a Scrum team? Here's all of your team members, basically a list of names. And it was like, gosh, this is, you know,
what do I do?
Yeah, and it was just, well, I mean, it was just kind of like sad, because it's like, these are people, you know. So I treated them like that, and they responded very well. And, you know, yeah, I mean, I joke with them, and, you know, they're still friends to this day. So I don't know, that's how I handle it with distributed teams. But how do you handle it with distributed teams, or does the same apply?
You know, I think with distributed teams, it might take a little bit longer. I know I've worked with distributed teams in the past, and it's taking more than 3 months to actually show that I'm helping them in some form or fashion improve. I really try to, when they're distributed, I really encourage the video conferencing, because I think body language says a lot. When you are joining the call, but you're not able to physically see someone on the monitor, it's not the same thing as interacting in person, you know, but seeing them in a monitor, I think, is very helpful, reading that body language. It takes a little while, and you have to show those gradual improvements. But I am a strong believer that in a company, if you're going to invest in a Scrum Master, you need to try and do your best to encourage your Scrum Master, invest in them visiting with your team at least twice a year.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Can we do it more often, though? Because
I would be nice.
I visited my team, my distributed team, within the first 6 months, and it has done wonders and been amazing. We've had a completely different relationship ever since, and a much stronger one. Let me ask you this. You mentioned video conferencing. Recently, my team has gone towards trying out the video conferencing, and I noticed like everybody was almost kind of nervous to do so. At first, I would tell people like, hey, we're going to do video conferencing coming up on, you know, Tuesday, or, you know, whenever we meet as a team. And nobody was ever like, oh, yeah, that's amazing. It was like, oh, okay. And some were like, oh. And it was like, you know, because nobody wants to be on, you know, camera, especially
it feels weird.
It
right?
does.
It feels unnatural.
So let me ask you this. From your experience, you're coming in as a Scrum Master for the first time, and you want to work with your team. Are you going to immediately jump to the video conference, or are you going to ease them into it?
I usually do video conference unless I'm having like really early meetings. Like I'm talking 6 o'clock meetings with my teams in like Europe or the East Coast, because I'm actually sparing them of the trauma that they're going to experience on Zoom, because that's, you don't want to see me at 5 a.m. It's a scary.
But the first day of getting your team together.
But no, yeah, the first day, the very first day, like I like to encourage the video conferencing, because I think you make a lot of connections when you see the face. It becomes more personal, right?
That's really brave.
You're a person. It's not like your first and last name on a video Zoom, you know, and you don't actually see the face. Like, I think facial expressions go a long way.
Oh no, they totally do.
They're super important to
me.
me.
No, I love it. I guess like I guess the very first time that I engage my brand new team, I would probably do the phone call, but I guess it really does depend. I would kind of gauge if the culture at work, at what they're used to, is video, of course video. If they're not used to it, I wouldn't really want to shock them. I really wouldn't want to go, oh, hey, our first conference is going to be video. That's just me, though. Like, I would probably say phone, and then I would say, hey, you know what? Moving forward or next week, we're going to start on video conference, and then I would be very clear with them on, like, hey, we're going to do this, no pressure. It's just getting to know. I think I have seen both. I've seen people excited about it. I've seen people not excited about it, but
Well, I mean, if you're taking a call at 6 in the morning, you're just rolling out of bed. I'm not gonna be excited.
Well, now see that's an interesting thing. So let's explore that, and we're really getting into the details for this podcast, or at least I like to explore that with you, because just kind of blanket saying like, oh, hey, this is your you're starting with your team brand new. Do we want to jump on a video? But is your team that you're referring to working from home, or are they all in a room?
Yeah, I mean, they're distributed. Some of them, work in the office. Some of them work from home. But I do like to initiate the first few meetings with them in person, just because it's nice to put a face behind the voice, and I don't feel like it's a lot to ask for,
Yeah.
So for me, it's hey, if you guys don't mind, let's do face-to-face at first, and then after that I don't care, like it's fine, like I'm getting to know you, and that's going to be perfectly okay. But
so that's interesting. So
face-to-face is important.
I think I've learned something there, because I would feel or at least the approach that I've taken previously was kind of, at least for one team, was the opposite, where I started with phone and then eased into the video, and then we got more comfortable with the video, and then once we got really comfortable with the video, we went back to the phone, because I guess we didn't necessarily need that on the daily, and things just got too quick, and we just went back to just phone calls. And for the distributed teams, of course, I always make it a point, if my team or members of my team are physically here, I very strongly encourage everybody to be in the room.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
have successfully at my place where I work developed that culture of, let's get into a room. We're going to be in a room together. If we're physically here, we need to be here, even if it's for a real quick call, your daily scrum. If it's for a long call, we need to be together. If we're backing our team up for whatever, we just need to be together. If we are, if we can walk to a room, we're going to be in a room. That's kind of the culture.
I mean, definitely, if you have that luxury, like being in the room together is like by far the best thing you could do for a team. But if you're distributed, I think just turning the camera on for a little while so you can put people to their faces, I think goes a long way. And for me, I think after I've met team members in person, I even like to have the video conference on, because I can read the body language. If we're going through a grooming session and we're headed in the wrong direction, I can read my developers' body expressions really well, to where, all right, we're not headed in the right direction. Like, I think we need to take a step back and re-engage the team. So for me, if we're doing video conferencing and people are working distributed, like, I think turning the camera on is very valuable.
Let me just kind of throw this out, or not throw this out. Let me just establish this. We've established that one of the first things that you're going to do is you're going to get on the phone or on video. You say video. I was taking the phone direction, but I think you convinced me about immediately getting into video. And then when you get comfortable enough, you can kind of work towards, hey, you know what? We don't need the video every single time.
Totally.
Of course, if somebody gets a haircut, maybe we want to see what that looks like, just to
to say, hey, nice haircut, or what were
seriously.
you thinking when you asked for that?
Right. You're never supposed to present the coupon before you get the haircut. Right. You always do it after, because they'll,
because then they're going to take it.
Yeah.
You're the one with the coupon?
Yeah. Oh, let me use the little bit duller scissors.
Yeah.
So as far as what else would you do? So month one, we're getting into video discussions,
you're just
and
listening.
We're seeing each other.
Yeah, you're just listening. You're just observing.
Month two, what's next?
I feel like month two, you actually, I really feel like month two, you start with the retrospective. You start helping facilitate that. You don't ask the team to make the changes. You kind of try to get the information out of them as to, all right, where are we at in terms of maturity? What do we need to do to make these changes? What's hurting you every sprint? What concerns do you have? And I think from there, as a Scrum Master, you facilitate that and you take action.
So let me just kind of recap for those of us listening along at home. The first month, as a Scrum Master, you're coming into a team brand new for the first time.
Right.
Your first thing to do is to get that visual.
You got to sit in the back of the room and just check it out.
And
see how
for
it's
the
doing.
first month, you're just kind of doing that.
Yeah.
And you're just watching, seeing, to play on the visual aspect of it. Also, you're going to encourage everybody to connect visually so they can see each other. The second one, the first kind of thing that because at that point for the first month, you're really not a full functioning Scrum Master. You're just observing, seeing how the
you're
team
just
currently
there
works.
to check things out.
Second month, you're coming in, and your first thing that you're going to take a stab at is the retro.
I feel like the retrospective is a good place to take a stab at how facilitation to just kind of figure out how things are going with the team, what their pain points are, what you need to look out for as a Scrum Master to help them along the way. You know, a lot of times it could be an external factor, an impediment. It could be something internal within the team.
I know we've done an episode on retros before.
We have.
But I do have a question. So, we've done, I think we've done an episode on retros about where we did different styles and how to do it. And even since then, I've developed a few new styles on my own that I thought was pretty cool. From a first retro perspective, what method or style, I guess, how would you facilitate your first retro? What method or style would you use? Would you do the traditional, continue doing, stop doing, start doing style, or would you do something different?
You know, for that first retro, I like, especially if you're the new Scrum Master coming in, I like to take the team and say, let's just reflect on the last 4 or 5 sprints since I've come in. I'd like to hear from you what has gone well, what hasn't gone well, and what areas you feel you need to improve on. Or you could do there's like this 3 Little Pigs retro that I think I've talked about in the past, which is pretty solid because it gives you a good, it gives you a productive retro to understand where the strengths are and where the weaknesses are, and where as a Scrum Master you need to make sure that the team sticks to improving on those weaknesses, right?
I like that.
Yeah. So for me, it's really just gauging that. And I think if you can win them over with helping them improve from that first retro that you facilitate to the second one, I think that's a small win for you, but it kind of starts to cement some trust between you and the team. And then you can take it from there.
Right. So one of the teams that I had, one of the first retros I did, because I wasn't quite sure about what they did and kind of how the dynamics were. So for me, I did, and I didn't create this. I learned this from one of the classes that I attended, but it was or maybe I derived it from it. But my retro was, I used retro board, and it was just 2 columns, and it was, are you happy? Yes. And why? And are you happy? No. And why? And I found that was super effective because not only did we talk about things at work and things about the project, but we talk about, I don't appreciate that, I have to, I don't appreciate that this happens, and maybe I can't come into work because I have this, or I can't go home on time because I have this on this particular day. So we really got almost to, I feel like we kind of touched a nerve with that. So I'm not sure if that works for everybody, but for me, I used that for a team that I wasn't quite sure about everything that was going into because not everybody was open, and I felt that kind of opened it like unzipped everybody.
It's like a health check.
It was.
Right.
It was kind of like a health check, and people really enjoyed it. In fact, that was one of the most. That was the most talkative retro I think that I've ever been to. People enjoyed it because they wanted to talk about it. It was literally, I like this, I don't like this, as opposed to, what do I want to continue doing, stop doing? Because I've kind of found, especially, and we've done an episode on interviews as well, but I kind of feel like people get locked into what they do on the daily. But as a team, I think we also want to hear about what affects you, not even just at work, outside of work. And that kind of helped open them up to discuss that.
And I think that's what a lot of people, I think as you're a new Scrum Master and you've gone through the class, like you understand the processes and how to run Agile, what it means, the mindset, and you know a little bit about Scrum. But I feel like sometimes people miss on the people aspect. It's really about keeping your team engaged and keeping your team happy, right? That whole health check. So I think it's pretty great that you did that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely a different way to do it. And I kind of feel like, I mean, of course, the traditional format is like really it's important, and you can build on that. And the 3 Little Pigs thing is great. I've done that before myself. But I don't know.
Thank me for showing you to the 3 Little Pigs.
Actually, I think you're right. I did.
Yeah, no,
I did
yeah,
take that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But you
I'm
can
not a
thank me
glory.
for doing the whole yes or little 2-column thing that I do too, right? Or have you heard that?
No.
Hey, I got something.
I'm happy for you.
God dang it.
Kidding. I'm kidding.
Always
So
trying to
anyways-
impress, but never hit the mark. Thank you very
Okay,
much,
so
Christine.
recap it. So it's 2. So
Well, hold on though. Month 3. What would you do in month 3? So we went over month 1, month 2, month 3, because I would personally say that month 3, I'm going to be looking to the Scrum Master to be, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would probably look at month 3 kind of going, what is the Scrum Master doing? The Scrum Master should be able to at least begin or have a plan to start to make an impact on the team.
yeah, I think by month 3, you're meeting with the Scrum Master to find out what the problems are. And so as a manager, if I hire a Scrum Master, I'm going to be meeting with the Scrum Master to say, okay, month 1 you observed, month 2 you took the stuff from retrospective or the items from retrospective, and you try to, take away what is going to help this team improve, all their pain points, and you want to help them take action on it. By month 3, I feel like that's the month that you really have the ability to make an impact. So if it's our product backlog isn't full enough for the next 2 sprints, and you're going to work back with the product owner. If the product owner is being really dominant over the team and the team doesn't feel like they have a voice, you're going to help them find a way to have a voice. If it's the team, the backlog doesn't look organized, or it could be a number of things, but that is when you're going to start slowly helping them make the changes. You're not going to make them all at once. It's going to be incremental. It's going to be small, but you're going to try and implement some of those changes. And at the end of every retrospective, you're going to inspect and adapt, and you're going to figure out if it was the right thing to do for the team or the wrong thing to do. And the team is going to be, by the 3rd month, the team will be a little more honest with you as to if they're happy or not happy with some of the changes that you're trying to make.
Interesting. You're part of the team at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you start becoming part of the team. But you know what the thing is? What I have found is that as a Scrum Master, if you tell them you're going to do something within that first month, do it. If you tell them you're going to bring them donuts on the 3rd Friday of every month, do it.
Now, that's one thing
I don't care if you show up with the donuts late.
Right.
But bring them the donuts as you committed to. If you tell them you're going to schedule a meeting, do it.
Now, that's one thing that you do, and I've noticed, and I did say do, but you do bring food a lot to the team.
I do.
And in fact, when I first started, I was on your team, and you were my Scrum Master. And that was how many years ago was that? It's like 3.
3 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. I think you brought us. Was it tacos? The rolled, what was it?
Yeah, it was these little red taquitos that my mom makes for breakfast that I learned to make. And I think I brought those in. And gorditas.
Yes. Something.
Gorditas. Gorditas and tacos.
Nah, gorditas and tacos. So that was cool. And that was neat too, because I didn't expect it. And me as a team member on the team at the time, and you as a Scrum Master, it was just like, wow, that's really cool. Like, this person cares. And I found myself wanting to talk to you about it and ask you and engage you about it. Not that I was afraid of you before, although I am absolutely terrified of you now. That was a really cool thing to be able to share with you and with the team. And the fact that the Scrum Master brought it kind of brought us all together. It was a little thing. So those little things, it's the littlest things that count. And I appreciated that. So thank you for the taquitos and gorditas.
Speaking of little things, something that I always did in most of the positions that I was in is, this sounds really bad because you don't want to sound like that creepy person luring people in with candy, but I always
it depends if you're driving a van or
but I always had candy at my desk, right? Everybody needs that nibble toward midday or the end of the day, like a little pick-me-up chocolate, Jolly Rancher, whatever. But I always had a full basket of candy at my desk, and I always had an empty chair next to my desk. So
I feel like there's a drug dealer that has told me the same exact
right?
thing. Yes.
But it was amazing how many people would want to talk to you, but they were shy to do it, or they didn't know how to approach you, and they would come in, grab a candy, and then you're like, hey, have a seat. So those sessions to me were equally valuable as a retrospectives, because you get insight from one person, like, hey, they start venting and you get their challenges. What are they going through day in and day out? Are they getting along with someone? Do they want to move teams? So believe it or not, there was so many conversations that would take place by people just making their way over to grab a piece of candy, but at the end of the day, they wanted to sit down and vent about something. And I learned so much through that.
I love that so much. And you're right, you did do that because I have been in that seat before.
You've been in that seat before.
Yes, and I think I now need to go back to my place and ask for a little bit larger desk so I can say I need that and an extra chair, and all of a sudden, boom, you have a, what is it, psychology office or something.
Really?
On, yeah.
But, you know, I think
the floor.
Everybody wants to be heard. Everyone has their view of how things are going. And sometimes, you know, people just want to vent. And I'm okay with that as a Scrum Master, because I know some people don't want to be vented to, but I would rather people come vent to me and feel comfortable with that than be standoffish as a Scrum Master and just looking at numbers and metrics all day, because there's so much that goes on that we just can't, the numbers don't tell the story all the time.
That is a good call. In fact,
tell me what's going on.
In fact, let's talk about that. I know it's not completely on our topic, but as a Scrum Master, I spend the least amount of time on metrics. I spend the most amount of time on people, and I drive that home all the time. So I'm sure all my teams know, and if they're listening, they're probably going to smile right now, but I always say I do not make a move without my team being 100%. And I make sure that my team feels comfortable and is ready to go. I always end my calls with, you guys are, you know, if you guys need anything, please let me know. Other than that, you guys have a great day. Talk to you guys soon. I always do that. So from a Scrum Master point of view in month 3, and I know we're kind of coming back to our thing, but you should be able to say that and mean it.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, I'll agree with you there, but I also think that, you know, as a Scrum Master in month 3, you do need to pull some metrics just so you understand personally what's going on with the team.
Do you share those metrics?
I do. I'm very transparent. Like if I'm pulling data from my teams, I share it with them.
Share it with who? With them or?
With my team.
Okay.
And I'll share it with leadership too. I am very lucky to work for a company that looks at metrics to really try and understand whether a team may be struggling with something, whether they need extra staffing. They don't look at metrics as weapons.
And, you know,
I love that about my company.
And see, that's interesting. I have a little bit different point of view. So I think that could be a teaser for maybe one of our future podcast episodes.
It is, because we've
metrics.
talked about metrics.
We have. And I think you and I are going to have an interesting podcast on that one, because we may have some different points of views.
Yeah, well.
And some similar ones.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
Sometimes, maybe, possibly.
Maybe,
We'll see. Tune in later.
It's okay. I'll make sure to bring you tacos on that day.
See, there you go. Then I'll be really happy.
Then yeah. No, but I mean, there's a number of things you need to do. So you come in as a new Scrum Master. You have 3 months. You know, first you observe the team. You try to figure out who's who, the different personalities you have on the team. Month 2, you just kind of help facilitate that retrospective and help the team improve along the way. Month 3, you start making small incremental changes that's going to be healthy for the team. And you want to work back with the team to find out if those changes are good or if they're not good. But I think the biggest takeaway that I've learned after my different Scrum Master roles, and not just me personally, but just by observing other Scrum Masters, is you do not want to come in the first month and make radical changes. You are not going to win the entire team over that way.
Nope. And the same goes for product owners, right?
No, I'm going to stick to just the Scrum Master, because I think that's a separate episode.
All right.
I think it's a good episode, but it's a separate episode.
Fine,
yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. But I just think that overall, I think that if you are looking for a Scrum Master, your company looking for a Scrum Master, I think it's good to let the Scrum Master know what you need from them. Mm-hmm. And also give them the opportunity to provide you with feedback on what they're seeing and what improvements or what changes they feel needs to be made to the team. You know, sometimes you might hear that a certain team member isn't working out. They might be a better fit for another team because they have better skill set, or it's just something else that's better for that person. So I think, I think it's a process. I think that, you hiring a Scrum Master to come in, you need to know what you want from that Scrum Master, and the Scrum Master needs to make those observations, come back to you, give you that feedback, and then start helping make and drive some of those changes. And then hopefully by the 6th month, you've won your teams over and you're working alongside them, because I think that's important. You want
to show your teams that you care.
Well, yeah. And the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway is you are a Scrum Master. You are a team member. You are not over the team. You do not dictate the team. You don't tell them what to do and how to do it. You are there to facilitate the healthy way of operating a team.
Right.
you're not a boss.
No, and that's the unfortunate perception that sometimes that it brings. And like I've even had people from outside of the team like look at me as like, oh well, that's your team, isn't it? And I'm like, no, we're a team. It's not my team.
I'm on that team.
Yeah, right, exactly right.
Although I will say this, that I don't look at it as like I'm over the team, but it's my team in the sense that we are a team. Like I get very attached to my teams.
Yeah, well,
I
I know.
absolutely love them.
Yeah. Well, typically things that, I mean, they're all terrified of you anyway, right?
No one's terrified of me.
No, of course not.
No.
No, because neither am I.
Yeah,
So,
you
right.
shouldn't be.
Right. There you go. Thanks, Christine.
Yeah.
All right. I'm blinking twice.
You
for
guys
all of
can't
those
see
on the
what's
phone.
going on
No,
in this
right.
room right
Yeah.
now. Like the looks
Right.
that John is getting. But
right.
no, I think, I don't know, you want to recap it in some way?
No, so I think month 1, we're talking about sitting back, observing, seeing how they currently work, and I definitely respect that. Month 2, we're talking about retros and getting into that, taking that first stab, because what that does is it helps establish your personal connection with the team, and it really helps, it allows you to give them space to breathe and to discuss, and that is super important. And that's why you take your way, I take my way, and just kind of getting to know the team. And then month 3,
you actually start helping that team implement those changes for the better, whether
Excellent.
It's working back with the organization or just helping the team as a whole.
Excellent. And then moving forward, you are super hyper effective.
Yeah.
And of course, much better for having listened to this podcast.
Are they much better for having listened to this?
Well, I like to think so. I mean, we don't put ads up.
That's
so
true.
It's like,
Although we do advocate for tacos.
We do. So
margaritas,
if we
donuts.
could have, right. Well, I mean, those are necessities. I mean, that and
Tacos
then, water.
Must have.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything else more important. Possibly pizza, but I mean, given the choice, like
tacos.
If you were on a desert island,
tacos are way better than pizza.
Okay, so I would actually agree. Like if you were on a desert island and you could have one meal a day,
it'd be tacos.
I would.
Tacos are corn dogs. I don't know what it is,
Whoa,
but I am
what,
obsessed
corn
with corn dogs. Like I just
corn dogs are pretty good.
Corn dogs.
Did you want to go get a corn dog?
But they have to be fair corn dogs, like from an actual fair, like a state fair, something like those.
But Christine,
nice
we're in San Francisco. Where are we
dogs.
gonna
I know
get...
we're not going to find corn dogs in
No, we're not going to. I mean,
No.
we could. We could find. Maybe we could. I mean, sure. What is it?
I don't know about San Francisco.
San Francisco's 7 by 7, right? 7 miles by 7 square. So it's 49. Is that right? 7 times. What's 7 times 7? 49, right? I don't know. I haven't done that. I'm a Scrum Master, not a mathematician, Christine.
You do math, John.
It's 7 times 7 is 49. I know that. I'm trying to make a joke. It's for the podcast.
But anyways, yeah, there's not many corn dog places
No,
around here.
there's
It's
not.
mainly tacos.
We'll find some tacos.
Sushi. Tempura.
Tempura's okay, but you see, when you mention tacos, it almost kind of just negates
mouth waters.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind?
Every kind. Adobo, shrimp. Oh my God. You
Adobo,
name it.
yeah.
You name it.
Pescado,
Carnitas, tacos.
yeah. All right, all that good stuff.
Tacos are amazing.
So we're gonna get some tacos.
We're so off track here.
Well, that's fine. They're probably nobody's listening by now. Anyway.
We're not gonna get any likes on this. But anyways.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. It's tacos. Taco Tuesday. Taco Thursday.
It's Thursday. It's not Tuesday. It's
all right.
Thursday.
So with that, John.
And on that, thank you for playing along with today in the Agile Standup. Today, we discussed how to gain the trust of your team as a brand new Scrum Master and kind of took you through month 1, 2, and
3.
There we go. So on that, Christine, is there anything else going on today? Is there anything we have to do, or?
I just want tacos.
That's true. We are going to go for tacos.
Just tacos.
Excellent. So we don't have any impediments or anything except that we need to figure out where to obtain these tacos.
Where to get tacos.
Yes,
Obtain.
definitely. Obtain.
It's just where to get tacos.
I don't know. It's a very scientific word. Obtain.
Okay. Well, yeah. So let's just go find some tacos.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.